Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Mayi ki jai. Jamuna Mayi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome to everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, April 10th, 2024 in New York, and we are reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 29th chapter, tonight starting with text number 39. And I have to say we're very grateful to Maharaj waking up in the middle of the night to be with us while he's in Johannesburg. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nachasya kaschid daito, nadveshyo nachabandava, avishatya pramattoso, pramattam janamantakrit. Kapila Dev is speaking here. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend, but he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. Purport. Forgetfulness of one's relationship with Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of one's repeated birth and death. A living entity is as eternal as the Supreme Lord, but due to his forgetfulness, he is put into this material nature and transmigrates from one body to another. And when the body is destroyed, he thinks that he is also destroyed. Actually, this forgetfulness of his relationship with Lord Vishnu is the cause of his destruction. Anyone who revives his consciousness of the original relationship receives inspiration from the Lord. This does not mean that the Lord is someone's enemy and someone else's friend. He helps everyone. One who is not bewildered by the influence of material energy is saved, and one who is bewildered is destroyed. It is therefore said, Haring bina namriting taranti. No one can be saved from the repetition of birth and death without the help of the Supreme Lord. It is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu and thus save themselves from the cycle of birth and death. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Stang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So initially here, Kapila Dev says, the Lord gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. Prabhupada does spend significant time in the purport explaining how it's our own doing that we've forgotten him. The Lord is not playing favorites, although this does sound harsh. He gives inspiration to those who have forgotten him, and those who have forgotten him, he destroys. But in the Sanskrit, the word for the destroyer is an interesting phrase, antakrit, which means the end maker, or he does you in. The anta means end, krit is creator, maker. And so, but then Prabhupada explains how we're doing that to ourselves. Essentially, he says that our forgetfulness of our relationship is the cause of our destruction. So we have this eternal relationship, we turn away from that, and then what we get, Krishna Bahir Mukhahan Bhogavanshakare, we get that bright idea to turn away from the Lord. And then not only do we turn away from the Lord, but everything, all of the qualities of our relationship with the Lord, our whole life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, it completely flips over and becomes an opposite thing. We get, instead of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, we get temporality, trouble, and ignorance. Because why? Because we made the bright decision to turn our faces away. We want something different. Krishna makes the arrangement. All right, you want something different. This is different. And it's very different. We get something else. He says later, our constitutional existence is to have relationships with and be dependent on the Lord. Actually, I wrote, that was one of my notes. So if we don't want our constitutional position, then we have to have something fake, something temporary, something put on, a disguise, a false identity, a virtual reality that we're surrounded by. So antakrit means that he gives us the illusion that we're destroyed. He causes us to identify so heavily with these bodily coverings that when the body covering is done and is no longer inhabitable, then we think we're done, and therefore we have this tremendous fear of death. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, we'd certainly like to hear what you have to say on this verse.
Om Gyanantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Again, you've covered it. I like this. Anyone who revives his consciousness of the original relationship receives inspiration. But I don't have more to say about that right now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Any other questions or comments here? Hare Krishna. I'm looking for hands up or chat entries. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's, the translation of his Bhanu Swami's translation of that is that he says, time holds no one dear, hates no one, and is friendly to no one. Time, always awake, the bringer of death, destroys the living entities who are unaware of its existence. Which reminds us that Kapila Dev is, in the previous verses leading up to this one, including this one, he's talking about himself, the Lord, in the form of time. and how that affects the trajectory of the lives of the living entities. All right, Krishna. Oh, I was happy to see that Madhupati Prabhu is here. Prabhu, would you like to read our next verse, which is text number 40? Is that possible?
Okay.
Jai, thank you.
Yad bhayadvati vati vato ayam surya tapati yad bhayat yad bhayat varshate devo bhagano bhati yad bhayat. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows. Out of fear of Him, the sun shines. Out of fear of Him, the rain pours forth showers. And out of fear of Him, the host of heavenly bodies shed their luster. The Lord states in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dhyapsena Prakriti Suyate, Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter 10th verse, nature is working under my direction. The foolish person thinks that nature is working automatically. But such an atheistic theory is not supported in the Vedic literature. Nature is working under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. And we also find here that the sun shines in the direction of the Lord, and the cloud pours forth showers of rain under the direction of the Lord. All natural phenomena are under superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Yeah. So, under the Lord's superintendence, the material nature is acting. Verse talks about how, out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows, the sun shines, the rain pours forth showers, and the host of heavenly bodies lose the luster, shade the luster, lose the luster. So everything works under the superintendence of the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada mentions that the atheistic things that material nature does not act under the superintendence, but is acting by itself and working. Everything is working automatically, and they will have philosophies around everything happening by chance. Okay. Yeah. So that's what is Yat. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur mentions. Yat stands for Yasmat. Time represents the Lord. Yeah. That's all I had.
Jai Jai, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Maharaj, would you care to address us on these points?
This same point is made in the Kathopanishad. Bhayad asyagnistapati bhayad tapati suryaha bhayad indrastravayuscha mityur dhavati panchamaha. In fear of him burns fire, in fear of him shines the sun, and Indra and Vayu and the fifth one, death, run in fear of him. This is translation by Vasudev Prabhu, who's we're working on Kathopanishad. The same principles found, the same message found in Kathopanishad is found here in Bhagavatam. Yes. That's all.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Your connection seems a bit unsteady. We're mostly getting you, but you occasionally freeze. So just wanted to let you know. Priyanka Mataji says, it's a question here in the chat. What is the significance of the word fear in this verse? under my direction and under fear, is it the same? I had a related question, but she asked it first.
Yeah, enforcement implies fear. Law enforcement, if you're not afraid of the police, then the police are weak. Not much is going to happen. Let's see. I'm going to cut my video, I think, because of that bandwidth you're talking about. It's said in the Bible, the fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. And some commentators comment that means awe and respect. And others comment that it means fear, that we're really literally afraid. So let's see if I have a comment on that. Yeah, try us. The Taittiriya Upanishad says almost the same thing. In fact, it has a verse, I think, identical with our own here from Bhagavatam. The demigods know that without the mercy of the Lord, or that if they transgress the orders of the Lord can remove them. And so they carefully execute their prescribed duties. That's, yeah, I'd better do my work or I'm going to get canned. So the demigods know I'd better do it. Otherwise, there's no guarantee that I can stay here. So you could say respect, but like respect, everyone has respect for a stick. If it's, yeah. So both things, respect, great respect, and ultimately fear. And even fear personified, that's stated, Yad Vibheti Swayam Bhayam. Even fear personified is afraid of the personality of Godhead. Everyone is afraid of death. That's fear. Ultimately, fear means fear of death. Ahara Nidra Bhayamaitunam Cha. So what is that fear? Ultimately, fear of death. No other fear is as powerful, pervasive. So that fear, yes. But even death is afraid of Vishnu. That's maybe enough.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah.
And Praveen has a quote there.
Yes. He says, Lord Kapila had already explained this in the 25th chapter. Madbhayad vati vato yang suryas tapati madbhayat varshatindro dahatyagnir mityus charati madbhayat. But there he says me, and here him. He addresses time in the second person and not himself, although he is time himself. And Priyanka Mata continues with a line of question here. Maharaj, can there be love also, along with respect, as the demigods are elevated personalities?
There's love, but it's not the same kind of love you'll find, say, in Goloka Vrindavan. The citizens may love the king, but not the same way that the king's wife loves the king or the king's son loves the king. So there's a kind of, therefore that kind of love is different than this kind of love.
Thank you for that, Maharaj. That answers the question I was going to ask, but I think that sews it up nicely. You just the way the verse is presented here and in the Upanishads, one can get the mistaken idea that what we have is kind of a reign of terror. But as you brought out, that's enforcement is required in the material realm, and that the kind of love that you have for the supreme person here is different than transcendental spiritual rasas. And it also occurred to me how it is said, I don't know where it's said, but that the opposite of love is not hatred, but rather fear. So it seems like love is the motivation for all service in Vaikuntha, and fear, like you say, fear of losing your job, getting canned, getting put in the slammer, is the motivation here. Murai Gupta Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for being up at this time. Remembrance and forgetfulness come from Krishna. Activities are carried out by material nature. It appears that all the living entity can do is desire, and then the consequences follow. Is that our situation? We're tiny, desiring entities, powerless to do anything else?
That's pretty much it. We desire to do something. What were we reading just that I liked in the previous verse? That if we turn to Krishna, anyone who revives Krishna consciousness, consciousness of the original relationship, receives inspiration from the Lord. So that nothing's possible without inspiration. So matap smriti jnanam apohanam cha. Inspiration, knowledge, forgetfulness. Without those, if you've ever really been sick, so sick that you can't move, Bari knows about this, then the desire may be there, the thought may be there, but you just can't do anything because the senses don't have the power. So we think, that Prabhupada points this out, my hand, my arm, my leg, but without the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my hand, my leg don't work. They don't work. Nothing works. The whole machinery is dependent on the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that sense, we have no independent capability to do anything. We can desire something, and then if Krishna permits, then we can do whatever he allows. But independently, we can't lift a finger. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you, Maharaj. And Praveen Krishna Prabhu asks, why indicate the time factor as a second person if he is time himself?
Sometimes, well, why indicate time as a second factor? Sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's the first factor. Kalosmi, I am time. And sometimes independently represented. So when time is conceived of separately, then it's the second factor. And when time is conceived of as the personality of Godhead himself, then they're one. Sometimes also just rhetorically, the king is not amused, speaking in the third person about oneself. But that's sometimes found also. So you find, Kapila Dev, Ishra Sarvabhutanam Hriday Serjanatishtati. The Supreme Lord is found in everyone's heart. So who's speaking that? The Supreme Lord. Ishra says, Ishra is Parameshwara, the Supreme Ishra says, the Ishra is found in everyone's heart. Who is that Ishra? Well, it's me. So sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly. Sometimes first person, sometimes third person.
Jai. And Murai Gupta Prabhu says, thank you, Maharaj. And we are now at text 41. Sucharadeva Prabhu, are you able to read a verse this evening?
Yes, Prabhu, I will. It will be 41.
Yes, 41.
Yad vanaspatayo bhita lata chaudivihi saha sve sve kale vikrananti pushpani cha phalani cha. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trees, creepers, herbs, and seasonal plants and flowers blossom and fructify, each in its own season. As the sun rises and sets, and the seasonal changes ensue at their appointed times by the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so the seasonal plants, flowers, herbs, and trees all grow under the direction of the Supreme Law. It's not that the plant grow automatically without any cause, as the atheistic philosophers say. Rather, they grow in pursuance of the supreme order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in the Vedic literature that the Lord's diverse energies are working so nicely that it appears that everything is being done automatically. So continuing on the previous verse, this verse explains how Bhagavad Gita also explains there are 4 stages of relationship: fear, desire, duty, and love. And Kapil Dev further explains how even not only celestial planets, major celestial planets, things at macro level, at cosmic level, even the micro level interactions and events are taking place by the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport particularly raises the point that the atheistic world brings in the point that the world is majorly ruled by physical laws which came in existence after the manifestation of universe. And Srila Prabhupada particularly cuts through that point by saying that it is actually by the will of Supreme Lord that everything happens. We hear the example how I was just few days ago I was just listening to an atheist who was saying everything works automatically. It's a default automatic process. And then he goes on to say, like, for example, you take the example of cow. She eats grass and then she gives milk. It's an automatic process, a default process. We don't have to do anything with it. And then if when someone asks him, what about a bull? When you feed grass to a cow, she gives milk, but that's not the case with a bull. And then he goes on to say, yeah, because they are made like that. And then the question comes, who made them like that? If it works, it might work for it should work for everyone, but different people are differently made, and then that's why the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes into action, the supreme cause of all causes. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Prabhu. Maharaj, can you share with us some points?
Not much to add here. It's been nicely said. It's the personality of Godhead who's keeping everything in order. Nothing is going on automatically. Hare Krishna.
Right, Krishna. Murai Gupta Prabhu says, does a good disciple obey his guru due to love or fear, or a mixture that changes as the relationship develops?
There may be both. There may be both. In a subordinate, there's love, but there's also fear. We love our parents, but we also know that they can swat us. So both things. We love the spiritual master. We're also afraid that that we may displease him. We may not be exactly afraid that he'll rebuke us, but that he may be displeased by my activities, and then I'm nowhere. Yasya prasada nagatir kutopi. So there's that's a component, you can say, of a respectful relationship. There's always that sense that maybe you'd say something, but then you're you'd think of saying something, but you'd say, well, I don't know what the Prabhupada will be, whether he'll blast me for saying that, or so you might hold back. That's a kind of fear. Or you might think, well, if I say this, if I do this, will it be an offense? Or if I fail to carry this out, will he be displeased? So there is an element of fear there, not, what would you say, terror, but that sort of respectful feeling that we have toward a person of superior, in a superior position. Superiors, yeah.
Jai. Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj Gupta Prabhu says, thank you also. Ananta Shesha Prabhu makes the point, logic and reason can only lead to the conclusion that nothing is going on automatically.
Mm.
And I was hoping and wondering whether Shara and Doug could take text number 42. I think it would be great if you could read that, if at all possible. Oh, okay, not at this moment. Hare Krishna.
Okay. I can read, Prabhu.
Oh, yes, please, please. Thank you.
Okay. Ravanti sarito beta nadsarpati udadiryata agnir ide sa giripir purna majati yad bayat. Translation. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the rivers flow, and the ocean never overflows. Out of fear of him, only does fire burn, and does the earth, with its mountains, not sink in the water of the universe. Purport. We can understand from the Vedic literature that this universe is half filled with water, and on which Garbhodakshai Vishnu is lying. From his abdomen, a lotus flower has grown, and within the stem of that lotus flower, all the different planets exist. The material scientist explains that all these different planets are floating because of the law of gravity or some other law, but the actual lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we speak of law, we must understand that there must be a lawmaker. The material scientists can discover laws of nature, but they are unable to recognize the lawmaker. From Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we can know who the lawmaker is. The lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said here that the planets do not sink. Since they are floating under the order or energy of the Supreme Godhead, they do not fall down into the water which covers half the universe. All the planets are heavy with their various mountains, seas, oceans, cities, palaces, and buildings, and yet they're floating. It is understood from this passage that all the other planets that are floating in the air have oceans and mountains similar to those on this planet. Jai.
Jai. Any thoughts or comments to share on that, Mata?
It's quite straightforward. Yeah, maybe someone else can say something.
Maharaj, would you like to address these?
As mentioned, it's straightforward. This principle is there that if there's law, there must be a lawmaker or a law enforcement. Without, we see laws or regularities in nature, and an intelligent person asks, why are they there? Why don't the rivers stop flowing, or why does fire burn? And then you say, well, that because of this, and then you say, well, yeah, but why is that? And then Well, yeah, because of this. Well, why that? So that's how an inquisitive child even asks, what's the reason? What's the reason? What's the reason? And finally, you come to the original reason, the original cause, sarva karana karana. Otherwise, you get this infinite regress. Well, this because of this because of this because of this. But there's some cause to be found. There's some cause to be found. Otherwise, everything becomes causeless. Everything just happens. There's no reason. But there's a cause. Then we have to ask, well, is that cause conscious or not conscious? And then conscious, that's easy. A conscious person can make something happen. But how does an unconscious entity do that? And I've seen, I mentioned before, I think there's some textbook for children written by a friend of my sister's who's an atheist and a materialist, and explaining the creation of the earth and the cosmos and so on. And you get the earth saying, and then I decided to do this, and then I decided to, the universe says, and then I decided to expand, and then I decided, but, so ascribing personal attributes to what we say are inert material elements or material assemblies of material elements, but at the same time acknowledging thereby that there must be consciousness in the background. So inevitably we come to this point that consciousness is primary and matter is secondary. And finally, that this consciousness is not our consciousness. I can't say that the laws of nature are working because of me. That gets wild. So there's some other consciousness, superior consciousness. That's Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Anantashesha Prabhu adds, he says, mythology is a popular word among many Indians whose only understanding is enjoy your life because you only have one chance. And Bharai Gupta Prabhu says, laws mean some things can happen and others can't. That means decisions have been made and only living beings make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And I initially wanted to see if Shara and Doug could read the verse, because whenever I see something dealing with planets, universes, this and that floating around, I think Doug Prabhu is heavily involved with the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, and it'd be great to get his angle of vision on verses like that. Priyanka Mataji has a question in the chat. In the verse, it is mentioned as Bhu, which is earth, but in the purport, it is translated as all planets having mountains, seas, oceans, palaces, and buildings. So all planets contain well-developed civilization along with Earth?
Generally, that's the understanding, that the Earth is not the only inhabited planet. It's not even the most civilized planet. So yes, not that, as some might think, there's this one unique planet out of millions and billions and billions, but we just happen to be on, in which there's there's life, and not only life, but civilized life. The Shastras say no, there's in all the different atmospheres, there are living entities with bodies suitable for those atmospheres. So on the sun, there's life in the form of living beings with fiery bodies. And Prabhupada gives the example that, well, of course, fish can live in the ocean and so on, where a human being can live in the ocean, but he has to assume a particular kind of body. The scuba diving body, certain mechanical arrangement. So mechanical arrangements can be made for living anywhere. Therefore, the living entities are called sarvagata, nitya sarvagata sthana. The living entities live everywhere. and yes, in civilized form also.
Thank you, Maharaj. So we come to text number 43. Oh, Doug Prabhu, did you have a comment? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I apologize. I have a bit of a deadline, so I'm doing two things at once. I'm sorry I couldn't jump in and read, but I don't have too much to add other than all those points are completely accurate. That's, you can write down all the physics to describe gravity all you want, but you can't do this without philosophy. You don't know where the laws come from. All you can say is how things evolve, but that's the biggest problem in science, that it hits a point at which it's no longer useful. And that's why you need philosophy to explain where the laws come from and why they are what they are. I hope that helps or adds something useful.
Thank you. Always good to see you. So for text number 43 is, okay, that's a thumbs up and not a hands up. Okay, cool. I was going to see if Dana Mataji could read text number 43. Is that possible?
Sure.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Nabho dadati svasatam padam yani yamat pada lokam svatiham tanute mahan sabir avritam. Translation. Subject to the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sky allows outer space to accommodate all the various planets, which hold innumerable living entities. The total universal body expands with its 7 coverings under his supreme control. Report. It is understood from this verse that all the planets in outer space are floating, and they all hold living entities. The word Shvasatam means those who breathe, or the living entities. In order to accommodate them, there are innumerable planets. Every planet is a residence for innumerable living entities, and the necessary space is provided in the sky by the supreme order of the Lord. It is also stated here that the total universal body is increasing. It is covered by 7 layers, and as there are 5 elements within the universe, so the total elements in layers cover the outside of the universal body. The first layer is of earth, and it is 10 times greater in size than the space within the universe. The second layer is water, and that is 10 times greater than the earthly layer. The third covering is fire, which is 10 times greater than the water covering. In this way, each layer is 10 times greater than the previous one.
Thank you for reading. Any thoughts or questions occur to you?
Like, wow, taking all that in, it really makes me realize just how much I don't know, right? Like how much there's so much I can't even, we always hear like our brain, can't even, we have puppy brains and can't even comprehend the Supreme. And this is a perfect example of, even in this material realm, there's so much I can't even comprehend. And I always hear, there was a class I heard where they were like, think of our dogs. Our dogs can see, smell, hear things that we can't. So why can't there be other things going on out there that we can't see? But I don't have anything else that's real profound to say, but I would love to hear from Maharaj and others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maharaj, would you care to address?
This Nabha space is holding all the living entities. This is your Nabha, your come. Yeah. Prabhupada sometimes translates it sky, sometimes space, sometimes ether. And I think we'll find later on in Piltev's analysis, that a defining feature of this element is space. We think of space, outer space, we think of it as being some kind of, what would you say? It's something. But what is it? It's space. And space is exactly that. It's space. It's something, but it's not exactly. It's not something you can lay your hands on. If we're occupying 2 feet of space, or 6 feet of space, what is it? It's not. You're lying on the ground, so 6 feet of ground, but it's not exactly the ground that we're on. We are on the ground, on the earth, but there's space in which all of this has to exist. Even the ground needs space. So there's this feature of material nature that there's space for everything, whatever there is, or there's no space. We've run out of space. So it's real, but it's subtle. You can't walk away from the supermarket with a box full of space. It's subtle, but it's essential. Without space, there's nothing. The space is ultimately a manifestation of the power of Balaram. In the Brahma Samhita purports, I think, someplace, for the beginning of the book, it's noted that the Baladev Tattva provides unlimited accommodating space in the spiritual world. How could Ugrasena have so many bodyguards? Well, Krishna could provide space, no problem. How exactly that works, but space is available.
Thank you, Maharaj. And just to go along with what you were saying, it reminds me of how we have this chapter, calculation of time from the atom, and how time is measured according to the duration of it takes for the sun's rays to pass over a certain amount of space, starting from the very small and going up to the largest. So there's a great correlation between time and space. Krishna provides both. As Panchatattva Prabhu says, even the space for the planets is provided by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ananta Shesha Prabhu has 2 comments here. How can we say that our material physical laws on this mustard seed of our planet work elsewhere in the universe? We can describe all the phenomena based on science, and still so many unanswered questions. We can only see and hear what we are allowed to. And he says, the reality we think we know is only based on what we can perceive with our limited, faulty, illusioned senses.
Yeah, it's understood that the laws on different planets are different. Here the laws that you can't fly, and on Siddhaloka the laws that everybody's born with the power to fly. So this is things may not always be the same in every part of the universe. Time stretches, time works differently. Everything may be adjusted according to the will of the personality of Godhead.
Speaking of things being adjusted according to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prabin Krishna Prabhu writes, and this may be a comment / question, depending on how you hear it. The total universal body is increasing. That's a quote from the purport. meaning the layers are increasing compared to the previous ones. According to the fifth canto, the universe has fixed dimensions.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
All right, Krishna. And Anantashesh Prabhu says, our brains are not equipped to understand the concept of time. Speaking of time, 7:55 Eastern Daylight Saving Time. I noticed that Panchatattva Prabhu had showed up, and I wanted to see if he's available to lead kirtan. That would be nice. If not, that's okay. But we should have kirtan in any case. Oh, we can't unmute for some reason. Oh, alas and alack. All right, Krishna. Krishna Konteya Prabhu, can you unmute?
Finally,
Yes, fantastic. We can hear you. Could you lead us into kirtan, please?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmsa Parajak Charyastu Tar Sat Sri Sriman His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Savior of the world Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giridhara Kadana Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Sri Das Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Krishna Kante Prabhu. Thank you, Maharaj, for sharing your association with us once again. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you, Panchatattva.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna.
Krishna Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.